Kingdom citizen, yeah, yeah. Kingdom citizen of Wisconsin. Kingdom citizen, yeah, yeah. Kingdom citizen. Blessings, everybody. Blessings, blessings, blessings. This is Dr. David D. King with Kingdom Citizen of Wisconsin. And we are back with our constitutional teaching on tonight. And I am excited to have my friend, the bully who pushed me in the race for lieutenant governor. And I guarantee you she will be pushing me in the race for mayor of the city of Milwaukee. She is the county supervisor of Jackson County, Wisconsin. Let's bring her on. I call her the constitutional queen, aka Abigail.
Oh, thank you. You forgot right now I'm incubating a child, so that makes me the constitutional mama.
Oh, yes, the constitutional mama. She birthing out another freedom fighter.
Baby number 6.
Yes. So how you been feeling?
A little bit sick. But actually for 2 weeks I was sick with like a sinus infection and a cold, and that was miserable. And then as that went away, my all day pregnancy sickness started coming in. And I'm like, oh, good. I don't get a break, but oh well.
So you don't get morning sickness, you get all day sickness.
All day. Yep, all day. And there will be periods of time where it's worse. And yeah, I was telling you before we got on that the adrenaline rush helps a little bit when I'm fired up about something. That helps to keep it at bay. But
and before the show started, you was definitely fired up.
Oh yeah.
So
very much so.
So we're gonna we have Mercy coming on, aka Amber, later, but we're gonna go right into it. I just want people to know that we are still taking volunteers for the Brewers game. We got 3 games in already, and we got 3 going on this weekend. And so we are excited. If you want to volunteer at the Brewers game to help raise money for the school, you can call us at 414-676-0842 or 414-899-2688. And just say you want to volunteer, and we will sign you up.
Mm-hmm.
I also want y'all to know this show is pre-recorded. So if you make a comment and we don't answer, we're not ignoring you. We're just not there. So we're excited about this, and I'm ready for the teaching. So I'm turning it over to the one and only Mama to be, constitutional queen. Oh, constitutional mama.
That works. Either or. All right. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on the election that just took place, because I'm just going to say right off the bat it was a travesty, and I'm going to say it out loud. It's our fault, because we on the conservative side have sat down for so long. We're so used to being comfortable and not even thinking about the impact that these things have. We have for 10 years, we have an activist judge or activist Supreme Court. And right during a time when we're dealing with the downfall of Roe v. Wade. And so it's now in the state's hands. Well, guess where it's going to go? Straight to the Supreme Court. And we have a governor who is on the left, and that's putting it nicely. And we might as well just sit back and let the Republican legislators do absolutely nothing for the next 4 to 10 years, because we've got Evers, who's going to veto any conservative legislation, and we have a Supreme Court who will bat down any conservative legislation that does happen to get through. So welcome to the battle. You guys are joining. If you're joining us, then thank you for sticking it out and going to the polls. Thank you for trying to make a difference and speaking the truth and listening to when we have educated and informed and all of that stuff, when we've had those discussions with people who differ from us in different ways. But yeah, I just it's going to be that much harder of a battle now, because we have the courts and we have the executive in the hands of the left, and the left has an agenda, and that agenda is winning right now. So, and we have a legislature that's cowardly. They sit back and do absolutely nothing. So yeah, so it's going to be a battle, but it's not over. And I've said this before: the election is the beginning of the battle; it's not the end. And we have our grassroots and we have our education, and we will do our absolute best. I know Amber talks about how to pull yourself out of the public sector as much as possible, and we do PMAs, and we talk about how we can retain our rights in the best way that we possibly can, because the only ones who can give our rights away is us. And they will take my rights away from me over my dead body. So this will be an interesting battle. And I'm pregnant, so the mama bear is very, very active in me right now. But I wanted to kind of we were going through the articles in the first article talking about freedom and our God-given rights and stuff like that. I wanted to skip forward just a little bit. Because I was reading forward, because that's what I do. I'm an overachiever. And I came to the part where it was talking about the judiciary and what their roles and responsibilities are, and what their authority is. And so here's an interesting thing. In the Article 7 in the judiciary section, it talks about Section 3. It says the Supreme Court jurisdiction. And jurisdiction means, what authority does the Supreme Court have? That's literally what that means. What jurisdiction, what authority do they have? So here it is. The Supreme Court shall have superintending and administrative authority over all courts. So they can't, basically they have the ultimate say over how the courts work in Wisconsin. Okay. Or I should say the administrative and superintendent. So they get to monitor the rest of the lower courts in Wisconsin, and then they have kind of an administrative role. The Supreme Court has appellate jurisdiction over all courts and may hear original actions and proceedings. The Supreme Court may issue all writs necessary in aid of its jurisdiction. So that's basically saying the Supreme Court is the highest appeal in Wisconsin. Now, obviously, there's the Supreme Court at the federal level that you can appeal to past that, but the Supreme Court in Wisconsin is the highest state level place that people can go to appeal their case. The Supreme Court may review judgments and orders of the Court of Appeals, may remove cases from the Court of Appeals, and may accept cases on certification by the Court of Appeals. So yeah, they get to choose what cases they take, which cases they don't take. They can review judgments and all of that stuff. That's it. That's their jurisdiction. Now, in any part of that, did you hear anything about legislating from the bench, making law? Nope. Did you hear changing the Constitution? Nope. Did you hear executing the law? No. Okay, so their only job is to oversee cases and decide its constitutionality. That's it. They have no authority other than that. They have no power over how the Constitution is supposed to how it was written, who wrote it, and they can't change anything. And so we now have a Supreme Court whose majority believes that the Constitution is a living and breathing document that they can change at whim, that they can legislate, that they can actively modify to suit the whims of culture, their own personal belief system, their own values and judgments. And nowhere in that jurisdictional section does it say that they have that right or that authority. So I just want us to keep that in mind, because we're probably going to be doing a whole heck of a lot of civil disobedience in the next 10 years. Oh, you're muted, Dr. King.
Oh, that's why you couldn't hear me. Okay. Oh, when you break it down like that, and if we do a survey today
Mm-hmm.
on what you just said and ask everybody, did you vote based off of that right there? Did you know that this is their job? Did you know that abortion really don't have nothing to do with their job?
Yeah.
They will say, I didn't know.
No, exactly. And this is how they would read it. Well, it doesn't say they can't, right? That's not the point. The point of a constitution, a written constitution, is to enumerate the authority that each branch of government has. If it's not in there, they don't get to have that authority. And that's a mindset shift that a lot of people, even especially on the conservative side, have to get through their heads. If it's not in the Constitution, they don't have that authority. It is enumerated specifically for that reason. So everything they talk about in Article 1 about our God-given rights, they have no jurisdiction over that. None whatsoever. They have no jurisdiction over our right to keep and bear arms. They have no jurisdiction over our inherent right to life. They have no jurisdiction over our free speech. Nothing. And if anything happens in that court, in that Supreme Court, that actively defies or violates those God-given rights, then I'm going to say it right now, if you don't stand up and fight against that, then you are a coward and you are weak and you don't understand. Either that or you're completely ignorant. And at this point in the game, the fact that we still have that ignorance when we have been seeing so obviously in the last 3 years the breakdown of our Constitution and our country, the fact that we are still living in ignorance or in just laziness,
right?
I hate to sound like accusatory or angry about this, but I am, because guess what? My 6 kids, including the unborn one, are going to be living under this person, under this authority, under this government, both on the state and the federal level. And they will take my children's rights, my parental rights, away from me at the end of a gun, because that's the only way they're gonna get it back. And that's gonna be unpopular for some people, but I am sick and tired of hearing people say, it doesn't matter, elections don't matter, we can't vote. You know what? The only way we're going to change things if we get out and we actually do something about the problems. There are some things we have no control over at this point in time. I shouldn't say none of us. Many of us are not lawyers. We cannot fight from the court system to fight back against the vaccine mandates or the Second Amendment rights or the whatever the case. But we are citizens of this nation. We are citizens of this state, which means that we have not just a right, we have a privilege and a responsibility to take this Constitution, all 3 of them, the Bible, the federal, and the state Constitution, understand it from start to finish. And it's not hard to understand. If you have to do a word search to define certain terms that we don't use very often, then do it. But the point is we have, me and Dr. King and Amber, we are trying to educate people. But if you don't get off your butts and start educating yourselves, we are going to lose our nation. We are going to be the least free nation in the world instead of the most free nation in the world. And it is going to be our fault because we, the people, in our state constitution, in our federal constitution, it starts out with we, the people.
Yes.
We, the people, are responsible for when this nation goes down. And we are responsible for it not only before men, but before God. And so when Thomas Jefferson was talking about the slavery issue and saying, I tremble for my country, when I understand that God is just and his justice will not sleep forever, we can say the same thing about right now in this time of history. I tremble for my country when I understand that God is just and his justice does not sleep. Because we have transgender education and agenda in our schools. We have a Supreme Court who is going to trample on the rights of the right to life and make sure that that the abortion issue is put into law, codified into law. We have a leftist executive branch that are vetoing everything that we have in the legislature about the laws that will help to keep our streets safe and criminals off of it, to keep our God-given rights protected and defended. This is a battle we are not going to win if we don't get off the couch. So yeah, wild-eyed mama right now, and I'm fired up, but I cannot be silent when I am seeing this. The night after the election, I got the results I got the unofficial results, and I looked at that and I wept and prayed all night long. I could not sleep. And it's sick to my stomach, just weeping and praying over this nation and over this state, because I can guarantee you right now, guys, this is God's judgment on us. He uses the evil, the wicked, to judge his people when they are no longer choosing righteousness. And that's what we've been doing for the last 100 years. And it's got to stop. We have to stop sitting in the pews and pretending that our religion is going to protect us from what's coming.
Not at all. And I just read Lamentation 1 and 2.
The weeping prophet.
Huh?
The weeping prophet.
And yes, and then 1 and 2, how he talked about how people are going to really, and to me, he's talking about America. Mm-hmm. How people is going to look at America and they're going to laugh and they're going to be like, "Where's your God now?" And they're going to be like, "Oh, this is this that great nation?" Yeah. And so when we look at things, especially when it comes to the Constitution, because the Constitution lines up with the kingdom of God. Yeah. And when we go against that, we're going against God. And so when we have people sitting in the pews or not sitting in the pews, not acknowledging the ways of God or the directions and the structure of God, then we in some trouble.
Yeah. And then you get people who will say things like, "Well, we can just move to a different state that's more free." Really? Are we going to continue to cede ground to the enemy? Is that how this works? Is that how the kingdom of God wins? We just, you know what? We lost here, so might as well give up the battle. Like, are you kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me? This is not how kingdom citizens fight. We should be on the offense. We should be the ones moving culture towards Christ, not away from him, and then going, "Oh, well, I guess we just had to lose this battle. Let's just move to a different state." You know what? I'm going to stay in Wisconsin until I die. And I don't care when that is. If it's next year, 20 years, 50 years down the road, I'm going to be staying in this state unless God moves me. And I'm going to be taking back the strongholds that we have given over to the devil, because I swear to you, these people are of the devil. We cannot look at them and just say, "Oh yeah, they're," we can talk about the ignorant voters who don't know what they're talking about and don't understand and all of that. And that's great. But the people who are running this state, the people who are choosing to sit in those positions of power, they are of the devil, and we need to fight them as if that was actually true, which it is. So, I'm just like,
mama bear is loose.
I'm an educator, but I am also a fanatic for the kingdom of God. And if this is something that is so vital and so important. And this last election just showed me that we do not have the ground cover, the warrior heart anymore. We have lost that, and we need to regain that before we lose everything else.
Yes. You're absolutely right. I can't help but to laugh because I see the passion, the anger, and everything.
I'm trying to channel it for good, but it's really hard not to be angry at people.
But when you say it the way you say it, you're absolutely right. Are we going to just give up?
Yeah.
But here's the thing about it: if you won't fight here, you're not going to fight in Arizona.
I know exactly. That's the crazy thing. Like we're just okay. So you're gonna move to some new place. Well, you're gonna ruin that place too because you're gonna still be sitting on your butt and waiting for it to fall. Like that's like this isn't Jericho, people. This is the kingdom of God, and we are literally ceding ground to the enemy day by day. And I'm not all for that. And I haven't been like you guys. I've just started, being vocal as far as public about this, but I can guarantee you I was actually just talking to my mom just a few nights ago, and she was reminding me that at a very young age, I was challenging the system. I was asking questions to my parents' frustration sometimes, but I refused to just take, oh, it's just because, or, oh, faith is blind, or, oh, you just gotta trust. No, because I'm reading this book called Trust, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's talking about, and it's talking about relationships, it's talking about business, but it's talking about this kingdom too. Trust is the subtitle is knowing when to give it, when to withhold it, how to earn it, and how to fix it when it gets broken. Well, I can tell you right now that I have no trust in the system that we have in place. Not the system as it was originally intended, but the system that the people are abusing and using. I don't trust the people who are in power right now. I don't trust them on the Republican side. I don't trust them on the Democrat side because they have not proven they're worthy of that trust. And we need people who are trustworthy, who are unimpeachable in integrity, right? That doesn't mean perfect. We're not looking for perfect. I'm not perfect, obviously. I am a flawed and fallible human being, and I admit it fully. I have a lot of issues, anger being one of them. But what I do want to say is we've got to stop saying, oh, we're going to vote and then we'll be done, and whatever happens. It's God's world. We're just living in it until he comes again. I don't want to hear that. I want you to pretend like he's not coming again. But he has given us a purpose here on this earth, and there's a kingdom that we're fighting for right here, right now.
Yes. And it's our job to govern the earth. It's our job to make sure things are right. It's our job to govern the system. But if we're not going to fight to govern the system, then those that are in charge of the system is going to win. Yep. And the problem that we have is we're too lazy to. It's like God said, I'm gonna give you Jericho. I'm gonna knock the wall down, but you still got to go in there and take it, right? And they sitting there like, well, I don't want to go over in Jericho and take it. Why don't you just give it to us? And why do we have to go and fight them? Why do we have to go and run the people out? Why do we have to go and even lift up a sword? You're God, just fix it. And that's what they're looking for now. And and then a guy said to me, he said, what's happening is the will of God. I said, no, it's not the will of God. I said, the problem with today is we're not fighting. God gave us the will to change it or leave it the same.
Yeah. And when he said, you are Peter, and on this rock I build my church, my ecclesia, he was giving us that will. He was saying, this is my will. The church is my will, right? The ecclesia, the public assembly, the ambassadors that I am sent. You human beings are my will. This is what you are going to do. Whatever you loose in heaven will be loosed on earth. Whatever you bind in heaven will be bound on earth, right? He gave us that authority. He gave us that power.
Yes.
He's not telling us to hand it back. He's saying, you are my plan A. The church is my plan A. So you're going to change this world, or you are going to lose it, because this is your job. He's like, I did my job. I established my church. I bled for it, right? Now it's your job.
Right. And then he says, newsflash, there is no plan B. Yeah. It's just plan A. Get off your butt and govern the earth. Period. Yeah. And so when you look at it though, and we look at it the way we see it right now, you got so many, because here's the people, we only fight for what we want. We don't fight for what we need. We only fight for what we want. Yeah. And I just did a live, and I said this in the live. Mm-hmm. It's funny how when it's political, you can be divided and can't stand one another. But when the Bucks is in the playoff and winning the championship, you
Yeah.
got thousands of people there, and they don't separate conservative over here,
Yeah.
liberals over
You
here.
don't know what your neighbor is.
You don't, but you hugging each other.
Yeah, and cheering, and we should be treating the freedom battle like that, right? Where we are,
Yes.
it doesn't matter what side we're on. If we value freedom, if we value our God-given rights, then we should be fighting for that no matter who's in office. And then we should be getting those people in office who value the same thing, who have those fundamental principles written on their hearts.
Yes, and now, ladies and gentlemen, and boys and girls, this young lady is about to come on and join us. She is radical. She is crazy. She is mean. She's a mama's bear. And ladies and gentlemen, let us bring on Mercy.
I gotta situated here. How are you guys?
I do not know.
I don't know if you heard the last little bit, but I'm on a roll.
All right, give me the 10-second download of
10-second download. Well, he hit me with the election. How was the election? Right before we got on, and I'm like, oh, let me talk. So yeah, I will say though, like I said already, the adrenaline rush is definitely keeping the pregnancy sickness at bay. So I'm gonna just keep going. It's good. Yeah. So I skipped ahead in the Wisconsin Constitution and read the very, very short paragraph discussing the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. And nowhere in there did it say anything about legislating from the bench, about being an activist, about bringing their own principles and values to it. It was they had the responsibility to review cases and basically had authority over the appellate courts. Mm-hmm. That was it. I mean, pretty basic.
If I had pearls to clutch, I'd be clutching them right now.
All I know is she is like a match around gasoline, the fume of gasoline, not even the whole gasoline, just the fume of it.
Yeah.
And exactly what you said, and maybe we can turn that little bit into a visual. Mm-hmm. And like I've said several times before, I think the more we can actually visualize what these rules look like, they don't feel so esoteric, the right word. They're just they feel so
essential.
Yeah. And just really hard to grasp. Like I was talking to someone the other day, because there's the House of Representatives and the Senate and Congress and all these different things. It's like, what are they? How do they work together? What, where did they go in this puzzle?
Yeah.
And if I still struggle with some of those things that seem like they're supposed to be the foundation and the basics, how are the rest of us supposed to get this? And so the more we can break things down, and I know it feels potentially elementary to those who've been in this, but really the visuals is really where it's at. And I'm seeing more and more from the other side, but also just in marketing in general, whether it's on social media, just these really, or just with all the health related things, just these, not stick figure, but a level up from stick figure level graphics that are just super basic and have those line charts where it's question and then it's yes or no and then these arrows and that level of basic. If we can bring it back down, and also make it relatable, connect, and like I said before, connect with people where they're at. I talked to these two earlier in the week as we were trying to schedule our recording here, and one of the things I'm really passionate about post-election is it feels like everyone has a sense of being lost right now. How do we get the voters? How do we get the vote? And what I'm seeing is we need to get out of our echo chambers, preaching to the choir kind of stuff.
We mentioned that.
Not where things are going to change. it's the on the fencers. It's helping people understand the things that they might be missing and don't realize they're missing. And this is where in marketing, a really helpful tactic that we can use to our advantage, I guess to truth's advantage. I don't want to say our, because this is not about sides. It's about truth and not truth.
Yep.
A technique that we can use for truth is what's called feel, felt, found.
Yeah.
And it's the best way of connecting with people and relating. Like, I get how you feel, and then basically copy what they just said back to them. Repeat it back. I felt the same way, and then use some, was it pronouns, like those describing words: frustrated, angry, scared, worried. And then I found. So basically connect, and I think it's like relate, I had 3 R words that was really cool for like the process. But anyways, you're basically showing them that you hear them, that they're heard, they're valued, they're seen, relating that you get what they're saying, and then responding with the message, the inspiration, the hope, by bringing new facts to light that they may not have known.
Yeah.
It's again kind of that Good Samaritan thing where, we're meeting them where they're at. We're not pointing down at them, telling them they're wrong. And if people don't feel heard, they're not going to hear us then either.
Yep, exactly.
Well,
that's my soapbox.
Well, I kind of like your soapbox, but let me show you how the left is doing it. The left is doing it by finding out what a person needs. Because one of the things that you learn, even when you go out witnessing, don't nobody care how much you know until they know how much you care. So even though they're doing fake caring, now they're listening.
Because they've got the hook.
Right. And so when we look at it, one of the things that I shared in the live that I just did is all campaign. I'm just gonna put truth and tell you where to find it. Now, if you don't go find it, that's not on me. Listen. We cannot hold the hand of how many millions of people in the state of Wisconsin by itself, right? If we just tried to hold the hands of the people in Madison and Milwaukee alone, we'd be dead because we died of frustration, anger, and everything else. But if we say to them, and one of the biggest things that what we have to do, and I'm looking to do, is we have to grab influencers. Okay, those that has influence.
Yeah.
And
let's bring them to the table first.
Yeah.
And then
that's why celebrity marketing is such a thing. They're a perceived authority. And when we know, like, and trust someone, we're more likely to listen to them. So using the influencers.
Yes.
Which is it goes so contrary to my, because like to me, I do not trust celebrities. I don't trust the experts, like, I mean, I will take what they say with a grain of salt, and then I'm going to go do my own research,
Right.
But you are not the norm by any means.
I know. Which it's just so hard for me to, like, okay, I know
I don't trust a celebrity either, because I'm like you. I don't trust a celebrity because of the fact that they only doing it because of the money.
Yeah, exactly.
But when I'm talking about an influencer, I'm talking about a person. If we go into a neighborhood, right, you'll find an influencer.
Yeah.
If we go in that neighborhood.
Yeah, people who have a voice in the community, who are looked up to, and
and if you give them truth, do you know how the work that I did by just being in the barbershop, that now when they're having a good conversation and it's not telling the whole truth, that they call me and say, come to the barbershop? I mean, and those are the things that I'm talking about, because when when you open up to and give some truth, and you say, okay, you know what? Like we was talking about the Supreme Court race. So I just said, anybody here can tell me what the job of a Supreme Court justice?
Yeah.
And it got quiet. They didn't know.
Yeah.
So because they didn't know, guess what? It opened the door for me to share the job of a Supreme Court.
Right.
Same thing when they brought up abortion. I asked them a question. I didn't attack. I asked them a question. I said, another word for abortion is baby killer. Right?
Yep.
I said, so what's the difference of a baby killer not being charged, but a man can kill a woman that's pregnant and it's a double homicide?
Bingo. Yep.
Yeah.
Just to get people to think, right?
Yeah.
I'm not bashing anything.
Right.
Just giving people to think. So when they say to me about, well, what about same-sex marriage? I say, why do I got to make a law that lines up with your bedroom?
Yeah.
Should I make because I like sex in a certain way, should I make a law that everybody got to do it the way I like it?
Yeah. These are pretty common sense questions. I mean, I was listening to something today on the jab debate. I'll say it that way. And it was one of I don't want to say our side, but a person who is actually going out and seeking information and seeking the truth. And he had this very well-known celebrity figure in the science realm who he was.
Does his last name rhyme with Rye?
No.
Oh, okay. Never mind
No.
then. Sorry.
I had to think about that for a minute. No, he's got three names, and he's well, I can say what his job is. He's an astrophysicist.
Okay, that one.
Yeah. So he was being questioned because he's come out with multiple Twitter posts and multiple interviews where he's talked about, just get the jab and you need to listen to the consensus of science and trust the science and trust the scientists and all of this stuff. So he was asking, the interviewer was asking these questions going, what science? Whose science? Right? Like, what do you mean by consensus? I don't remember science being a consensus-based they don't progress with consensus, right? It's
where's consensus in the scientific method?
Yeah, well, they started out where he was supposed to try to explain the scientific method, and he's going on and on and on about all of this, basically like observable and as many people and peer reviewed and you get it it basically is the mainstream view, and then it's science, right? Like I'm thinking that is not the scientific method.
No.
That is not how
you can answer that question in, let's see, 1, 2, 6 words.
Yep.
6 words is the scientific method: observation, question, hypothesis, experiment, analysis, conclusion.
Well, he brought that up. So the interviewer brought that whole, the 6-word diagram, the visual up on the screen and said, this is the scientific method. This has been the scientific method for thousands of years. And he goes, whoa. The scientist goes, whoa. Let me simplify it for you. And then he goes into this, and I cannot quote him, but he goes into this long, drawn out, run-on sentence about what he believes that means, and that's the way they break it down for people to understand. And I'm thinking, yeah, okay.
So basically, what he just said is that's the way they explain it for dumb people.
Pretty much. Oh, he was saying that. Yeah. He went into the idea that, most people don't our brains he said our brains are not wired for statistical analysis, which is why we don't, that this is why the media, when they talk, they don't give a ton of statistics. They just give, evidence that has already been proven. And so therefore, you just, and then he goes into this long speech about how, but we in the science world, of course,
technocrats. Okay.
We've trained ourselves to understand, it's like, are you kidding me? And then this is what really got me. after a while, you could see him getting uncomfortable, like his hands were shaking, and he's like, you could tell he realized he'd lost the whole control of the debate. He came on thinking, I'm the expert, I'm the celebrity, right? And he got more and more degrading and everything like that. But then it gets to the point where he's being asked these questions about, well, these are the tests, these are the scientific methods I want to use to test these hypotheses and theories so that we can actually come to a consensus about what the truth is, right? We can bring both sides to the table and we can actually discuss this. No joke. He goes, why are you asking me this? I'm an astrophysicist.
Yep.
I'm like,
Shifting.
You have a documentary out on the jab. It's called Shot in the Arm. You put yourself into this sphere of expertise, and now you're uncomfortable with the questions, and so now you're gonna pull back and say, "Oh, I'm just an astrophysicist."
And that's where we need to. Moments like that, we need to be recording, clipping, and sharing the snot out of.
Yep.
Because that moment is where he failed.
Yeah. He totally lost. He completely lost.
And the same exact thing as the scientist that I'm referring to.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
No. That was a brain fart there.
The short name for William and last name rhymes with Rye.
Yep.
Okay. He was a guy on TV, had a show for kids. Okay.
Oh, I watched it growing up.
Me too. So this dude, isn't he just like an engineer? Isn't that what his degree is in? It's like engineering. Has nothing to do with chemistry, nothing to do with biology, nothing to do with pharmacy, anything like that. Like literally nothing to do with anything health related. Zero. Zip zilch. He might have some concept of like project management. He's
not even into environment stuff. Like he's not an environmental scientist, and yet he's supposedly an expert on that.
Right. And so he or meteorology. I mean, that's part of environmental science, but he should not be saying one single word as an expert.
As an expert.
Now, I'm not saying, because I obviously don't have a degree in weather, and yet I can make predictions about the weather. I've studied it.
Yeah.
I happen to be passionate and have 10 years of experience studying essential oils. I don't have letters behind my name, and yet I know more about essential oils than pretty much every doctor you will ever talk to.
Yep.
Okay, stop 1 second. I got to jump in now. What is the definition of an expert?
If you look at the easiest definition, I guess you could say, it's somebody who has at least 10,000 hours of experience in study and self-training in a particular field or a particular subject.
Exactly.
Yep.
So
go ahead.
That makes I think that makes us some experts in some areas. Just a little, right?
But here's the difference between the experts that we supposedly trust in the media and the science and medicine, and the experts like us we're continually learning. We are continually seeking
continuing education.
Exactly.
Right.
Our education doesn't stop when we get a degree behind our name, if we even get a degree behind our name, right? Like,
we're not in that echo chamber, because even continuing education in the medical field, very often it's just an echo chamber.
Yep.
And the reason I say that is, anyone who's been into medical freedom or just learning about their own medical stuff has probably heard the statement, what did you go check with like Dr. Google or your Google degree? And I've done this, and I have a friend who has a very specific situation. She attended a online conference for medical professionals. So she's literally attending with all these other doctors who are supposed to actually be, helping her figure out her stuff. So she could figure out her own stuff.
Yep.
And then she went back to her doctors and said, run me XYZ tests.
Yep.
And she gets crap for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the internet does have a lot of snake oil salesmen. And yet.
But is that okay, it's on the web now. We've always had snake oil salesmen selling crap, right? Like, this isn't something, this is not new. We've had people peddling junk and lies before all throughout history. I mean, think about the Dark Ages when the one sect of the church was peddling what they call it, indulgences, right? It was lies to the people, and they bought it hook, line, and sinker. It's not.
What about when they ran out of money to build St. Peter's and they started selling purgatory?
Yeah, exactly. So this is not a new concept, and I feel like sometimes we treat it like it is, like, oh, and so then we go, oh, misinformation, disinformation, and all of this stuff, and it's like, okay, one, define that for me, because who and two, who gets to define disinformation or misinformation? I think God gave us a brain, and he gave us reason and reflection so that we could study things for ourselves and show ourselves approved, right? Like, and that doesn't just have to do with kingdom stuff. This has to do with the world we live in. How does one follow God's commands and be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it and have dominion over every living thing without having the reason and the ability and logic to actually do it, to do it successfully, to make things thrive, to make things grow, right? We have to have a brain in order to do that, and we have to have reason in order to rationalize what is true and what is not. We have to be able to discern that. And so God gave every single one of us that ability to discern. We just choose not to utilize it. We choose not to develop that muscle, right? And so this is what I was getting at with all of this stuff, talking about these experts and these celebrities and stuff, and the use of them. We need our side, I hate to say that, our side, the conservative, freedom-loving patriots. We need people in the celebrity world, in the expert world, who know how to tell a story, who know how to give a message in such a way that it is appealing, because not only because it's true, but because it calls to us in our deepest areas of need as human beings, right? And because that's the one really good thing that the left is good at. They know how to tell stories. They know, but every one of their stories are lies, right? Well, there might be truth wrapped in the middle of it.
But I'll tell you exactly why. Liberal arts, it's literally in their name. They're the ones studying psychology, and they're the ones studying communication and performance skills and slam poetry. Yes, I'm bringing that up because that you can actually study that in school.
Yeah.
And I'm not using that in a bad way. I'm just stating that even something like that, the things that we mocked them for, dance, the most, any of the art where you can express something, painting, pictures worth 1,000 words. They're studying these art forms, the art of communication.
And isn't art downstream of culture, or is it upstream of culture? I'm trying to remember. It's like it's the one that moves the culture, right? The arts, beauty, those types of things, those move culture in the way that they want culture to go. That's been true for thousands of years, right? Like,
well, one of the problem is they good at manipulating.
Oh yeah.
Because they know how to get to deal with you, to move you emotionally.
Yep.
The problem with the other side is that they suck at influencing.
Yeah.
They can't influence. You know why? And it's simple. The reason the left can do that, they have an open mind. They know their agenda, but they have an open mind to fulfill that agenda. Where the other side, the Bible says you can't pour new wine in an old wineskin. Mm-hmm. And they all got old wineskin. In other words, they got an old mentality. Yep. This is how we done it, and and this is how we've been doing it, and we're gonna always do it like this. And then they come back and say, I remember when Reagan did it. I remember when what's his name? Tommy Thompson did it. Those days are gone because you got a generation don't know no Reagan. They don't know no Tommy Thompson.
Yep.
It's just like when Joseph was in Egypt.
Yep.
The people didn't get oppressed until there came a Pharaoh who knew no Joseph.
Who did? Yep.
He didn't know who Joseph was. So until we understand that we're not good at influencing, and the reason we're not, because we're not good at messaging. Our message is wrong. And the last thing about it is, if you be honest, we're afraid to go into troubled waters. We're afraid to go where people that
don't want to rock the boat, right?
Right. That doesn't sound like us. We don't want to have those conversations.
Yeah.
I was just
we go ahead. You can go first.
I was just in a conversation with someone who wanted to have a heart-to-heart with their own father, because their father has become very much brimstone and fire. Like, you're just sitting in God's hand, and any little infraction, God's just waiting to dump you, kind of thing.
Sounds like Jonathan Edwards and the spider hanging over the lava pit.
Yeah. And she wants to have this confrontation, this conversation addressing that, and it's, I don't even have the words to describe it. It's
Well, I mean, you hear, you read or you see all of these books on how to communicate effectively and everything, and so many of them talk about tell your story, right? Boil it down to the nuts and bolts, the very essence of the principles and values that you stand on, and then tell your story, right? And I'm not talking about, I was born in poverty and I raised myself up on my bootstraps, and now I'm in the legislature and the federal Congress and all this stuff. That's not the story I mean, because I don't really give a crap whether you grew up in poverty or
you know what? I can almost guarantee there was someone that created an influence in their life that helped them make that shift.
Right, exactly.
It was not all on their own.
Exactly. And so this I want to hear who in your life, who inspired you, right? Who were the people that just shifted your mindset when it came to what you're passionate about, right? Like they ask those things on Facebook, name one thing that you can you give you 5 minutes and you can just go all in for it and like just talk about it forever. It's like,
or like, if you were kidnapped, what's something you could talk about that would make your kidnapper return you within,
exactly. In 30 seconds. Yeah. Like, and it sounds kind of campy to say it, but your elevator pitch, right? Like, what makes you tick? What is it that sets the fire burning in your belly that what matters? What is your why, right? Not that you were raised out of the depths and dirt of poverty. I don't care. You could be wealthy. It doesn't matter to me. Like, you could have gone to the elite schools or you could have gone to a one-room schoolhouse. Why? What was it that shifted your mind to say, I need to take this pathway because I value what? What do you value? Freedom? My God-given rights? My family? The things that make you tick? That's what I want to hear about, right? Yep. And so and that's the genuineness of it, right? That's where you get the integrity. And we were talking about earlier, I want people who are in those courts and in those legislators and in those executive branches who are unimpeachably integrity driven, right? That not perfect. I don't want perfect, because that would mean that as soon as I walked, as soon as I talked to them, it would stain the whole thing. I want unimpeachable. I want them to have the message that states, I value the sanctity of life so much that this is what got me moving, because I saw the destruction of liberty and freedom and the casual just surrender of it over the last years, and I can't stand it anymore. I have to fight back. Even if I lose the battle, I have to fight, because that's what's important to me. It's not whether I win the seat or not. Yeah, it's not whether I win the seat or not, because if I get in that seat, then I'm going to use it as a bully platform to make sure that our God-given rights and liberties are protected, and I'm going to reduce the size of government. But that's the what, right? That's all the what. My why is, whether I win or lose, I am going to fight this battle to the end, because it matters that much to me. Yep. And that's why I do this, because it matters that much to me. I'm teaching my children at the same time that I'm able to use this platform to teach others. But my why is because it matters to me.
It's the fight we're fighting for.
I see it as a hill that I am willing to die on, because it is that important. The kingdom of God is that important, and that's my why. Mm-hmm. And all of this is part of that. This is where God has gifted me or given me the passion and the heart for, and I'm going to fight this battle in the space he's given me for as long as it takes. And that's till I draw my last breath, like I don't believe in the retirement idea, like I'm going to be 95 years old in the nursing home going, you guys got to vote for the right person or you're going to lose.
Yep. And that's exactly like everything we just said in the last 5 to 10 minutes. That is precisely why when I'm doing my PMA advising work, in every single consultation, I always ask, is what you're doing in alignment with your higher purpose and your belief system?
Yep.
No.
And when I went down to Milwaukee, when we did that event and some other groups that I've done, one of the things that I've added into like this PMA workshop, so it's kind of like PMA's 2.0, but there's this whole process of, there's some questions, but then this visualization of getting people connected to their purpose in life.
Yep.
And unless you can connect to your why, to your purpose, you're gonna be, as one of my mentors in life has said, frittering and wandering. You're just gonna be like all over the place, and you're just gonna feel directionless, motivationless, all the places.
Or you're just gonna kind of throw up your hands and go, you know what, I'm not gonna be long for this world anyway, so I'll just leave it for the next generation. It's not my responsibility. I'm ready to engage in my twilight years and enjoy myself. Well, you know what, there's nothing that says we can't enjoy ourselves. But if that's our why, that's a pretty lousy why. Like that's a what? That's the rest that we need, the Sabbath, or in the Lord of the Rings, the last homely house we need before the quest, before we get to the really big bad part of the quest, where we just need that refreshment. And when we come back from the quest and we've won the battle and we're wounded and tired and exhausted, that we can come back to those places of rest. But that's not our destination. That's just a stopping point in it, right?
So
go ahead.
I came off this, I jumped off because y'all some troublemakers, but anyway.
At least it's only recorded, right?
I know. And so I jumped off because I went to go get a book of mine, since y'all always pulling up books, to let y'all know I'm not slow at all. But I went and got one of mine, and it's called Critical Conversations.
Crucial Conversations.
For talking.
Crucial Conversations. Good. See, she messed me up. It's called Critical Conversations.
Crucial.
Tools for talking when stakes are high.
Yeah.
You might need to read that one again.
I can read it.
I don't know what she said, but it's called Critical Conversations. Crucial.
I take it it's a good book then.
Very good. Crucial Conversation. Okay? Crucial conversation.
Yeah.
That's her fault. That part.
Which one?
You started off saying it wrong. I couldn't help it.
I know. But it is critical to have the crucial conversation.
There you go.
That's what I was trying to
That's what
say.
you meant.
I totally get it. It's okay.
That's what I was trying to say.
No, I actually do believe you. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Until my teacher jumped in there. But it is a great, great book.
Mm-hmm.
That way you know how. And one of the things in Kingdom Ecclesia Academy that we're putting in is debate class.
Oh,
Nice.
Can I join? I want to join.
Yes. And because we got to know how to conversate. We got to know how to listen to both sides and have and debate why we're believing something. Why do God deal with multiplication instead of division or addition? Right? Because why? God is, for example, 2 + 2 is what?
4.
2 times 2 is what?
4.
So, but God doesn't stay the same, right? 2 + 3 is what?
5.
But 2 times 3 is what?
6.
See, it became
Only
more.
square numbers. It's only square numbers that you can add and multiply with the same.
4 + 4?
Oh, you're right. Nope, I'm wrong. 4 + 4 is 8, and 4 times 4 is 16.
Mark that down in our.
I don't math well. I can talk about the Constitution all day, but I don't
Same,
math
girl.
well.
But the reason I'm doing it, the reason I said that is because when you go to the crucial conversations, you can say, hey, look, let's look at 2 + 2. It's 4. 2 times 2 is 4. Then let's look at 2 + 3. It's 5. But 2 times 3 is 6. 4 + 4 is 8. But 4 times 4. See, it's different just because it looks the same almost.
Yeah, the exponential growth of the multiplication.
So it's different. So let's look at the difference and let's debate the difference. And so having a debate class, I could debate with you. Now we can learn to agree to disagree, right? Now we could have that conversation and say, okay, I don't agree with that. So, and that's how you feel, that's fine. But let's look at what's our goal, what we're trying to do, where we're trying to go, what we're trying to accomplish, right? Yeah. And even though we doesn't see it the same way, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when we come...
I was going to say, that's the beauty of what you do, David, is you have learned these debate skills, these, you know, I don't want to say relentless because that's not the right word, but this
persistent,
unlimited amount of asking questions.
Yeah.
You know,
when you grow up in a house with 6 boys, you become a great debater, you know,
but you use that in a really positive way. And I think that's what makes you effective. From that time, from that one morning we went out to breakfast, and I remember who was sitting next to me, and you know, you were talking about identity. Do you remember that?
Yep.
Yeah. And you weren't, I mean, you made a few statements, but mostly you kind of turned the background asking a lot of questions. And that's the key of helping people get into their own mindset, because we're so used to disconnecting our heart and our mind and our soul, spirit. Yep. Socrates
Socratic method. This is a 4-volume set, so this is the ancient, and then it moves through into the modern period. So
should I go back to my library? Oh, I know a book that y'all got to get. Hold on.
Okay.
So we're just going to spend the rest of the time just doing just comparing books and things.
Yeah.
I'm cool with that. Yeah.
Mine's bigger than yours.
I like big books, and I cannot lie.
Yes. You know, though, we're touching on a really important factor, and that's, getting back to asking questions.
Yeah.
In school, so much we're taught, you get this amount of time to ask questions, and if it's on the, if it's like not a question that's relevant or seemingly relevant, you're not allowed to ask it either. So like you're only allowed to ask this prescribed set of questions.
Right.
And so we're taught to not question.
Right.
And so literally our brains are like turned off to that whole concept of curiosity and the why and the how. And
so then you get all the way up to, a particular district party resolutions committee. And then suddenly you have the chair of that party telling you exactly what he thinks you should do at resolutions. And when you ask questions, he rolls his eyes and tells you we're just sticking with what's important.
So who deemed it important?
He did.
So then I asked him, what's the point of us coming to this, writing our own resolutions, if you're just going to tell us which ones we should accept or not right from the beginning? Why don't you just write them and then we'll, he didn't like that too much.
I bet he did. This is a book you guys need.
You Can't Do Wrong Doing Right. A child of poverty rose to the White House and helped change the world.
Okay. Who was it?
Robert J. Brown. Robert J. Brown.
Was that like about Lincoln?
No. Robert J. Brown wrote this book experiencing his time in the White House when he was in the White House with Nixon.
Okay.
And
I think I've heard of that one.
At the time, how God used him, and then all of a sudden God said to him, you know what? It's time for you to lead the White House. And he left the White House on Nixon's second term and didn't get caught up in the mess.
Interesting.
But this book that he wrote talks about his childhood, talked about how during the time where blacks was protesting against Woolworth. Remember Woolworth?
I know the name. Yeah, I don't know.
You had Walgreens and you had Woolworth. Woolworth was the store that also had a restaurant connected to it. Okay, well, they didn't want to allow blacks in there to eat, and he was the mediator in between. And then he became part of Nixon's cabinet, and then it was Biloxi, Mississippi didn't want blacks to eat in their restaurants, and so he went down to see what was really going on, and they wouldn't let him in. So he went back to the White House, and when he went back to the White House, Nixon made an order: no military will eat in any restaurant in Biloxi until they allow black soldiers to eat there. So his whole life was about being that middle person, bringing everything together. I mean, he got treated bad on both sides. Some thought he was a sellout, but they didn't realize he was there to intercede on their behalf. Bless you. And so, when we're talking about communicating, having those conversations, hey, y'all need to, there you go. Y'all need to get these. Y'all need to get them. Your level. And I'm not going back to the library because Sarah's going to pull out something and make me want to buy something. So I'm not.
Did I show you this one?
Leadership, a call for Americans to finally stand up and lead. Oh, leadership.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got extra copies if anybody wants one.
I want one.
All right. Message me your address and I'll send it to you.
I think we need to make book clubs and watching documentaries as movie night.
I agree. Hands down. I am all in.
No, I got enough to do. No.
Oh, come on. This will be our homely house section, where we get to rest and just refresh with one another. And, like it's not the,
You can come up and hang out with us.
yeah, and stop on your way to the
Okay.
pine cone.
Right? We did it for Stacy. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was really smooth working.
Yeah.
Stacy, this is for you. But I just want you to know, no, we can do it. We can do it. I have no problem.
And I mean, and we wouldn't even, I know there's, distance for some of us. So if we wanted to, I think I've got like 6 or 7 copies of Leadership, and I can get more of them for like $4 a book. And we could do something like that where we read the book and we just discuss it, and we could do it online just like this, right? And just kind of have
or we can do it on Zoom.
Yeah.
And
I would be totally cool with that.
Yeah.
Because I can't find people around here who want to actually start a book club, and it's driving me nuts.
Yeah.
What we should do.
How many copies you have?
I think I've got 5 or 6. I'll have to count again.
Okay,
what we should do though is
you're gonna have to send 2 this way, because if she get my book, I never get it back, and then she has a habit. She loves writing in her book.
Oh yeah, that's me.
I don't like nobody writing in my book. That's why I got notebooks. So she writes in her books, and
but it's so fun when you like read a book that somebody else has written notes in, and you're like, oh, that's a cool insight. I never thought about that. And then you can write your own little insights, and then you pass it back and forth. It's so fun.
See, oh Lord.
Even because I'm reading my Bible from start to finish, and I'm picking out verses that are just really standing out to me. And I notice like there are plenty of verses that could stand out.
Yep.
And yet certain ones are standing out to me. And when I'm looking at what other people are sharing, what they happen to have read that day or whatever, like, oh, I didn't even highlight that part.
Yeah.
Like I'm reading in the Bible app on my phone. And so I'm just highlighting verses. And I'll look back and like, I didn't even have that one highlighted. And yet someone else, like that was like pivotal for them.
Yeah.
So I do.
Remember, you should join us. You should join us Sunday evenings. We've been doing this, the Bible Project. I think I mentioned it to you.
Yeah, I'm sure you did.
So the Bible Project, it's these teachings on the Bible, and they're visuals, right? They're like, they do it in, between 5 minutes and 30-minute videos, depending on the subject matter and stuff. Well, they have an online classroom that's free, and it's different subjects and topics regarding the Bible. Some of it is about books of the Bible. The one we're doing right now is an introduction to the Hebrew Bible. And it is so, like, the kids are even getting involved in it. It's so they think it's fascinating. So you should join us. We do it on Sunday nights, and we have dinner and together. And
I don't be able to do it every other because my schedule, but yeah, definitely remind me.
Yeah,
like the night before.
Sounds good.
And if you want, sometime like this Monday, is it this Monday? Yeah, this Monday I'll be doing a Kingdom teaching class again.
Okay.
So if you want to get on the Zoom, you're more than welcome. With that, we're having fun with that. I really, when I went to the Full Gospel Men's Conference and taught on it's time to return to the manufacturer and started talking kingdom. Oh, I love having fun like that.
You sure you want me on there? I ask pretty tough questions.
Hey, I can handle any question as long as it's kingdom. Hey, long as it's kingdom, I can handle it. It's when it's that other stuff. I make people mad when it's the other stuff, because they was told that it has to be right. It has to be the way that denomination said it. And so, and I kind of love when they on, because of the fact that you get to open up their eyes and say, okay, let's go back and let's look at this.
Yeah.
Like tomorrow is Good Friday, right?
Yep.
And if we wanted to really be a stickler, we can say, how did he die on Friday and rose on Sunday, and you got 3 days?
Yeah.
And everybody will be like, what are you talking about? You know, I'm like,
Well,
dude.
Friday night technically starts on Thursday night because it was
Friday,
evening and
yeah.
morning was the first day. So
Right.
our
So-
days usually are should start in the evening, actually.
Right. So that means he had to go through Judgment Hall on Wednesday.
Yep.
And then be put in the ground in the tomb on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll be in there Friday, Saturday, and got up on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and here's something else we're not even factoring in, you guys. The calendar they were using is not even the same calendar. The days of the week that we have in order are not even the same ones that they had. Like, because a lot, you know.
Well, we know that the new
Saturday. So I mean,
Yeah.
right, but you also know that March, I believe it's like March 15th, March somewhere in there, is the beginning of the new year.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I've heard different interpretations. Some say it's actually April 1st, which is ironic because it's April Fool's Day and we're not doing it. I've heard that one. But yeah, I've heard April 23rd and
right. But actually, no. If you look at and I believe, and I don't want to say it wrong, but I believe it's Nisi, and that starts. If you look at their calendar, it starts like the mid of March.
Yeah, so they the first feast day, so the first feast that they celebrate, Rosh Hashanah, that's the feast of trumpets.
Yep.
That is the one that heralds all of their other feasts.
Yep.
And that is a really fascinating study when you're going through like the Revelation and when you're going through the gospel messages, and like you see him talking in feast day language.
Yep.
And like the Feast of Trumpets is it's actually in the Revelation, and it's just fascinating to me. I think the Jewish holidays are so cool, but it's so symbolic. It's so crazy, and I wish we in the church acknowledged them more, because there's something about them that it really does pull in the whole story and the overarching theme.
Yes.
I would actually make the argument that because there has been so much corruption in the Christian world, I would venture to go as far as saying that it might be intentional that we have not been learning about these holidays.
Oh, yeah.
And keeping us separate and changing these dates and stuff like that to keep us separate from, reality.
From the kingdom perspective.
Right. And if you look at it from a kingdom perspective, most, if not all kingdom folks celebrate those and the festivals, because we know the symbolic of everything that goes with it. Like Pentecost, right? 50 days after so-called, Resurrection Sunday, then you start the countdown, right? And so, a lot of people don't understand the trumpet, the Feast of the Trumpet, the Feast of Tabernacle. The Passover, they don't participate. They don't understand those festivals. You got some that blow the shofar horn, but they don't know why they blowing the shofar horn.
Yep.
When they said that Paul was building tents, he was actually building prayer cloths. He wasn't building actual tents, So, I mean, it's a lot that we need to learn and why we need to celebrate certain things. And so, I don't know. We just look at it and some people say, well, this is it right here. This is the date. And you sit back and say, okay, well, if you're looking at it like that, then let's go back to the day, the evening, then the morning. That's the day, right?
Yeah.
So we have to back up to Wednesday is the day, a Wednesday evening, when they drug him from Judgment Hall to Judgment Hall.
By our calendar, yeah.
Right? By our calendar. Yeah. Wednesday is the day they drugged him to Judgment Hall. Thursday is the day he died.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And then they put him in the tomb.
Yep.
And then Sunday morning is when, after the Sabbath, is when he got up.
Yep.
So why he didn't get up on the Sabbath? I'm just messing with your head right now, but I mean, it's just the way y'all. It's just the way y'all look. Y'all both look like, oh, why? You know?
No. I was waiting for the punchline because
I was thinking it was a joke or something.
No, it's a day of rest. Of course, he's gonna rest.
He's honoring the Sabbath and keeping it holy. Come on.
Exactly.
Even in death, that's what he does.
But the thing is, you know, it's just a lot of things that when we look at and we see that we have to say, this is why we have to start to ask the whys. Okay, why this? Why that? Right?
Yeah.
You know, in some churches.
Well, I mean, good example. I was just listening to somebody today who was talking about, you know, how do you look for basically an unqualified pastor if they say things like, well, the Old Testament doesn't matter, or, you know, like just random things, and you're like, do you realize Jesus quoted Deuteronomy more than any other passages in the Bible? Like he grew up, he literally like cut his teeth on the Hebrew scriptures, like,
right.
And he said he came to fulfill the law and the prophets. The law and the prophets were the Hebrew scriptures. And sometimes he said the Psalms too, because that's another part of it. But like literally there's actually, it's another book that I want to get, is the actual setup for the Hebrew Bible as it was originally set up on the scrolls and things. Literally, it was, you have the Torah, right? Mm-hmm. And it's all three of them are called the Tanakh. So you have the Torah, you have the so that's the law, then you have the prophets, and then you have the other writings, which is like Psalms. And the last book of that Hebrew Bible is the Chronicles. Where are they in our Bible? They're like 1 Kings, 2 Kings, 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel, 1 Chronicles, 2 Chronicles. In Revelation, it talks about how, you know, the blood of the martyrs from Abel, right? The first martyr for God, to the Zechariah, son of Berechiah, or something like that. Zechariah was mentioned in the Chronicles. So when they were reading that, he was literally listing them from start to finish.
Right.
And you miss all of that when you're reading it in the way that it's set up. Now, not to say that you can't get anything out of the scriptures as they're written today or as they're set up today. But when you're going into and you're looking at the way that it was originally presented to Jesus, the way he would have read it, and then you see his passages where he talks about the law and the prophets and the Psalms, right? He's literally spelling out, these are the scriptures. Because guess what, guys? The epistles and everything weren't written until after Jesus was off the earth. So that wasn't the scriptures that everybody's talking about when Jesus and the apostles were talking about the scriptures. They were talking about the Hebrew Bible. So why is that not important to us? And why do we not need to know all the cultural things and who they were written to? I don't understand that.
I love when you go on rants because the points you make are just so both profound and just so commonsensical all at the same time. It's just like, oh yeah, well, duh. And you're like, whoa, yeah, duh.
Well, thank you. I'm losing my voice though. I'm getting so bad.
Well,
see, we had to shift, because if we didn't shift, I think she would have went on a rampage with her M16, her AR-15.
I don't have any guns. They all drowned in a boating accident.
Or pitchforks and torches.
I know, right?
Torches are more my thing.
Horse and buggy.
I've got cast iron skillets. Those make great weapons.
Yeah, at least in Entangled it does. Who knew?
I know, right?
Yeah. I understand, and I get it. I understand the need for grace. I understand the need for, you know, meeting people where they're at and stuff like that. Sometimes, though, I feel like there are people who actually use that as a crutch.
But you know,
like, this is the way it's always been. This is the way it's always going to be. I might as well just throw my hands up. And I know I'm kind of bringing it back to the original rant, but this is the reason why I am so passionate about these things, because like I literally just learned that about the Hebrew Bible, and it makes me passionate and want to share it with other people because that's so exciting to me.
Well,
you know,
like the other week when I had just learned about the maxims of law.
Yeah.
You know, when we find something that's pivotal?
Yeah.
Is it like, holy moly, everyone needs to hear this, and you just want to shout it from the rooftops?
Yeah.
Yep.
And the sad thing is that the last 100 years, this is actually rather new for America, because before this shift in education and the agendas and everything, everybody knew these. Like, they understood the maxims of law. They understood the Hebrew Bible in ways that we don't. They understood that you can read one verse and get 5,000 different meanings out of it, right? And it can apply to our faith walk. It can apply to politics. It can apply to education. I mean, all of these things, they understood that because they read and they studied and they educated themselves and they educated their children. This is what they read: the newspapers, they read the Bible, they read William Shakespeare, they read Plutarch, they read all of these different things that led them to understand the world around them, to understand the mindset of God, and to understand how they were called as human beings to govern and to have dominion. That's our job. That's our one job. And like, this generation is flunking badly.
And the reason they're flunking is because they allow people, ever since religion got to the point of walking away from kingdom, it got people to that lazy religion. And we always use an excuse, well, the grace of God, the love of God. And one guy was saying that to me, well, the love of God. I said, well, have you read in Hebrews, God chastised those that he loved? And if you're not being chastised, it says you're a bastard. You don't belong to him.
Yeah.
I mean, come on now.
If he's not chastening you, that's not a good thing.
Right. So if we're sitting here and we're trying to use that, and you're living any kind of way and you're not being whooped at all, then do you really belong to him?
Not only that, but if the devil's not attacking you, then you should probably be a little worried about your faith life. You know, like, if you're not facing challenges, and I'm not talking about somebody bad mouthing you on Facebook. I'm talking about, like, literally attacks on your family. It can come in the form of illness and ill health. It can come in the form of
heart breaking down and all the things.
Yeah,
all the things
like actual persecution, where people are, literally throwing, pumpkins at your windows and threatening you with death, those types of things. If you're not facing that on some level, then I would be a little concerned about your faith and your status as a follower of the kingdom of God, right? Like this. Right. I mean, this, and I again, I'm not trying to be all like judgy and condemning, because this is something that I have to evaluate in myself as well. If I'm not being challenged every day, or at least on a very consistent, regular basis, then I have to question: am I actually living out my faith? Am I actually giving people insight into what kingdom citizenship looks like?
And the thing about that, when you say it like that, you're starting to stir me up, because of the fact that when you look at as kingdom citizens, right, you look odd compared to everybody else, and you don't line up with the world, or you don't line up with just church folks. Yeah. Jesus never lined up with religious folks. He always looked different from religious folks. Yeah. And it wasn't the people that was not saved that was his enemy. It was those who thought they was righteous.
Well, because, he was a rabbi, right? He was part of the rabbinical lineage. He had leadership. He took on disciples. So it wasn't like he was just this random guy who came in and was like, I'm going to stir things up a bit. He literally was like the rabbis in his day. And yet at the same time, he wasn't, because he was the rabbi who was like, I've got the truth. These other people, they've got disciples, and, sometimes they get it right and sometimes they get it wrong. But they're also, a lot of them are deceiving you. They're leading you falsely. They are shepherds, bad shepherds. I am the good shepherd. When he's talking about that, he's literally saying, these people, these are fakes. These are ones that I set to watch over my sheep, and they're just flunking badly, right? Right. These are the things. So it's not, like I said, he wasn't just some random guy who came onto the scene and was like, yeah, I'm going to just claim claim myself as a rabbi. No, he knew his stuff. He had a rabbi's education. And so when he says, I speak from authority, he was telling the truth, right? Like it was.
And you know what's the beauty of it is? He had a rabbi, oh, okay. But he had a rabbi education, rabbi knowledge, without going to the rabbi school.
Right. Right. He studied the word for himself, and he knew it, well, partly because he's God, but also because he came to fulfill it. And so therefore he read it and studied it and understood it.
He knew it better than they did.
Exactly. And so, yeah. So, I mean, you think about it, it was the word of God written by him through the men and women that he put in, into those roles. There's a reason for that, and so, yeah. So anyway,
tied to my quote, actually. So I'm super glad we transitioned that direction.
Awesome.
Okay. So let's see, because it is that time, right?
It is that time.
It is that time. And it's y'all fault. So it ain't my fault this time. So never get a pregnant woman angry, okay?
Just never get a woman angry.
Well, you can get a woman angry, and you can tolerate an angry woman. It's the angry pregnant woman. You don't know who you're getting. You might get Freddy Krueger or Jason.
So far, she's the same Sarah I know and love.
So you mean I'm the same person in public as well as in private? Because that's what I really strive for.
Or not pregnant is more what I meant. Like,
true.
Well, she's saying that now because you're close to her, so you might go over there. So
you don't know where I sleep at night. I'm safe.
Okay, so let's get this going because we got to shut this down for the night. It is going on Facebook soon as we get through recording it, though.
Okay.
All right. So, Mercy, you up first.
All right, I'm going to start with my quote. It's Benjamin Franklin. Without continual growth and progress, such words as improvement, achievement, and success have no meaning. And for me, this is totally tied to what we're talking about tonight, because unless we're continually learning and growing how to communicate with each other about what the truth is, and I mean truth with a capital T, unless we're continually growing and progressing in that journey, we're not going to be improving. We're not going to be achieving any success personally or, collectively. And success won't mean anything because we won't actually have it. So really, we need to shift our mindset that school as we knew it, government school as we knew it, is totally the incorrect way of seeing life. It's not just you learn for this period of time and then you're done for the rest of your life. Life itself is this continual journey of growth and building knowledge and understanding. That's why, sorry, David, that's why older people are supposed to be older and wiser, and we're supposed to heed their warning and their wisdom because they've been there, done that. They have that collective experience. Now, because we haven't been doing this for generations, some of our elders today, but if we go back in time to our founding fathers and mothers, we have so much to learn. And sometimes we won't understand things until we've learned it the hard way, but at least we know, like, oh yeah, they warned me about this. Now I know what to do. Now I know what to look for. So see this journey that we're on together as this continual growth, as this continual progress. And it's really is a journey. So that's kind of my spiel for tonight. Don't give up after this Tuesday. This is just a step.
Definitely. Okay, it's kind of a two-parter, but they were both so good. I had to just real quick tie them in together. So I'm reading Democracy in America by Alexis de Tocqueville, and he wrote on the greatness and exceptionalism of American democracy is what he called it, but the ideas that behind it and everything were very constitutionally bound. But anyway, he talks about in one of the first chapters in the second volume, he says, where is it? Hold on, sorry. Okay. Men are therefore immeasurably interested in acquiring fixed ideas of God, of the soul, and of their general duties to their creator and their fellow men. For doubt on these first principles would abandon all their actions to chance and would condemn them in some way to disorder and impotence. As everything is at sea in the sphere of the mind, they determine at least that the mechanism of society shall be firm and fixed, and as they cannot resume their ancient belief, they assume a master. For my own part, I doubt whether man can ever support at the same time complete religious independence and entire political freedom. And I am inclined to think that if faith be wanting in him, he must be subject, and if he be free, he must believe. So basically what he's saying there is, if man divorces from faith in God, from an acknowledgement of a higher power, he's a slave. He has no other option but to be a slave, to assume a master in some way, shape, or form. And right now in America, that's what we're seeing is we've assumed the master of government. We've become enslaved to our government as opposed to restraining and having dominion over our government, because we've forgotten God. We've decided we are not going to acknowledge that higher power. And I know, we've said it ad nauseum at this point, but I just really wanted to end with that note that there's no third option. You either believe in a higher power and a higher moral authority and subject yourself to that, or you subject yourself to whatever master you can clutch onto, because you're having no faith in a higher power leaves you completely, like, what is it? The double-minded man, unstable in all his ways, right? Where you're just blown and tossed by the wind. And we're seeing that. We're seeing this godlessness permeate our culture and our society and our government. And I heard somebody once say that there is no such thing as a government that's not a theocracy. It just depends on who we call God, right? And that's really where we're at, is we've exchanged the God for a God, and
we've flipped the hierarchy of law.
Exactly. And we've made government our God, and it's going to definitely have detrimental effects, and it already is, as we can see. So just a reminder that we have to acknowledge that first principles, that first Constitution, our Bible, our word, the word of God, and have that kingdom mindset, or we will lose. No matter what we do, we will lose. So.
By the way, you totally should have had one of your quotes be that Sigmund Freud quote you shared.
I can save it for next time.
Oh, but it's so fitting for today. Can I steal and have a second quote?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
So she shared like 7 hours ago on Facebook a quote from Sigmund Freud, which she said she normally does not agree with, but this one's good, and I agree.
Broken clocks can be right twice in a day.
Yeah. Yep. The quote is, most people do not really want freedom because freedom involves responsibility, and most people are frightened of responsibility.
Yep.
Whew.
Yeah.
That gets some snaps for me.
I mean, doesn't that go back to our talking about these rights that we, nowadays we claim anything to be a right, but we don't attach the responsibility that goes with it. Right. And that the founders, they said your rights, your God-given rights come with responsibility. You cannot have one without the other. And that was why that stood out to me so much. I'm like, wow, Sigmund, you got something right. Right. Yeah. I mean, people they don't want to acknowledge responsibility because it's frightening. Because think about that. If we acknowledge responsibility for our actions, we have to acknowledge that our actions have consequences. And then we have to acknowledge that there is a higher moral authority by which those consequences are dealt, right?
Even acknowledging the fact that inaction has consequences.
Exactly.
Is monumental.
Yep.
And I think if we can even show people that much, that inaction has its own consequences, maybe that's how we get them to see that they're showing up on Tuesdays, certain Tuesdays in the year, is so pivotal toward our collective and individual futures.
Because our elections, they like I said before, they don't start or they don't end a battle, but they tell us exactly what strategy we need to move forward into the battle, right? Like that's really what it is. The results tell us the strategy we're going to need. Are we going to be, what are we going to take a flank position? Are we going to, like head first into it? How are we going to approach this going forward? This one, we have to be all on the offensive. We need to throw all our forces against them and make sure that nothing that comes out of the Supreme Court affects our freedoms and liberties.
Mm-hmm. All right.
All right. Y'all done?
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay. So I'm going to start it off this way. Choose whom you may serve. Our biggest problem in America is we move God out of everything, but expect the blessings from the God that we moved out.
Yep.
You cannot have your cake and eat it too. So you either serve God and receive the blessings according to Deuteronomy 28,
yep,
or you can disregard God and receive the curses. That is also in Deuteronomy 28.
Yep.
So, and I love the way they started. If it's evil for you to serve God, then don't serve him.
Yeah.
And if it's evil for you to serve Baal, then don't. But you got to choose.
Yep.
And if you're going to follow an animal, stop following the elephant and the donkey and start following the lamb and the lion.
Yeah.
Because that is where the answer is.
Amen.
And so as we look at what took place, what we do right, what we do wrong is not important anymore. It's what we do from here on. It's what we're going to do to prepare ourselves for anything that is about to come down the pipe.
Yep.
But I heard a wise man says, if my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven. I will forgive their sins and I will heal the land.
Yep.
This is the only way our land gets healed.
Yep.
There's no other way.
Yep.
So I want to leave with that. Are we ready to seek? Are we ready to repent? And are we ready to turn?
Yep.
That's mine for tonight. So we know we're going to have somebody talk. What do you mean, the elephant or the donkey? It's not about the elephant or the donkey.
Yep.
It's about the lamb and the lion.
Yep.
Unless it's a talking donkey that was trying to, warn against the angel that was gonna, yeah. Never mind. Sorry.
But that ain't that donkey. This donkey is the donkey that walked around with Shrek.
That one too.
I'm making waffles.
I'm talking donkey.
You like an onion. Onions have layers.
Oh yeah.
By the way, I love that movie, and we just watched it the other night. So
awesome.
I'm not even touching that one. Okay. You probably watched what's the other one that just came out? Boots.
Puss in Boots? No, I haven't.
I haven't even seen the first one.
Okay. So, but everybody, we love you guys. We're going to continue to fight. We're going to continue to educate. We're going to continue to do the things that needs to be done to make our city, because we got to start locally first, our city better, our state better, and then our nation better.
Yep.
With the help of God, we will be successful.
Yep.
So we thank y'all for tuning in to this pre-recorded. Again, this is pre-recorded. So if you make comments and we don't answer, We're not acting funny.
Yes, just tag us in your comments.
Yeah.
And then we'll respond.
And again, Russ, we're not live.
And no, we're not going to answer that question.
So
Sorry.
I know, right? So we thank you guys for tuning in with us, and we will be back soon. God bless, and
Good night.
Good.
and good night.